you know. And I remember just passing there, and as we passed there, they dribbled me to the floor and threw me to the ground. Ask, like, this is a child. What is she doing here? There should have been owners, you know. I tried. When I got home, I just remember seeing cars, police cars, at my grandmother's house. Everybody situation because my abductors weren't the people who raped me. So I was actually raped by people who pretended to be the CPF of Zone 10 in Meadowlands. She's always been a very strong presence in my life, even though she left by 14. I dare say, by the time I was 14, I was prepared to take life on because of the way that she raised me. But I also think that I think the spirit knows, you know, because when I look back, I just think the things that she was doing with me were just crazy for a young girl who was 11, 12, 13, 14, etc., etc. Here's a fact that I don't tell a lot of people, but I always sometimes used to joke, and I used to say to people, if you've lived in a child-headed household, I got you. If you've ever been mistreated, hurt, suffered violence at home, I got you. If you've ever, being sexually harassed, molested, I got you. If you've ever been raped. So I was raped, gang raped, in fact, at 13. And my mom, it was December of 1993. And so when I talk about the spirit knowing, it's that my mom, my grandfather had passed May 27th of 1993. And my mother could have died then because she went into a coma. We couldn't bury my grandfather because we were all thinking we were going to have a double funeral. And so eventually my family made a decision to say, look, we can't keep my grandfather longer. So it was 2 weeks. And then my mother came too, like the day before the funeral, which was wild. And she came out of hospital, she checked herself out, she was going to bury my grandfather. So that happens. And so when this incident, this violence happens to me that December, my mother went buck wild. And she looked after me like I was the only person on earth. And so people always expect, when I talk about it, even my family members who don't know that this ever happened to me, she protected me from everything and everyone. She protected me from school. She protected me from family members. She protected me from everything. I lived like this drum. I was like inside her arms. And that period doesn't even hurt me because my own mother healed me. And as soon as I was healed, then she died the following September of 1994. So when I say the spirit knows, I think she could have gone in May and I would have gone through that period without her. And I probably would have turned out a very different person. I would have probably had trauma. I would have had all sorts of things. But because she was there and she did what she needed to do, I do believe that God saved her for the period for me to then be healed. And then once I was fine, she was like, yeah, you can fly now.
Let's talk about justice.
Yeah.
Did you... What happened with that case? Did you close that chapter in a legal way? Did you get your justice?
No, I didn't get my justice. We did go to court. Huh?
Perpetrators know?
Yeah, perpetrator known. Mine was a very difficult situation because my abductors weren't the people who raped me. So I was actually raped by people who pretended to be the CPF of Zone 10 in Meadowlands. So I was literally abducted from my abductors. So my abductors claimed that my cousin had wronged them somehow, and they abducted me from Kodishopong, Kozontre, by my grandmother's house. They literally just took me and threw me in the car, and everybody was there. We were in a queue buying stuff. I think I was Nekirumila to go buy bread or something, and these guys literally just took me and put me in the car, and they drove with me the whole day, the whole night, and we ended up. One of them, decided he's done with this. We must decide what to do. So I was left with these two, and they drove everywhere with me until we ended up Kozon 10, Komido Lens, and now we're in this Shabin. And the whole time, you can imagine, I'm 14 years old. The whole time I'm thinking, how am I going to get out of this situation? Now, we had a home, Kozon 9, which is across the lane from Kozon 10. So I started to think, if I'm going to run away, I know my neighbors, Kozon 9. So I'm going to just run away to our neighbors.
You were not in the car. You were with them.
We're now with them in the Shabin. Kospoto.
Okay.
So, Banale Naro Kospoto. And the weird thing was, nobody questioned. I mean, of course, people are drinking, but I was 14. And there was no one who questioned.
Not 13?
I was 13. I was 13. Yeah, my mother passed away when I was 14. Yeah, so thanks for that correction. I was 13. In fact, I had just gotten I just been confirmed. And these guys were with me, and nobody thought to ask, like, this is a child. What is she doing here? There should have been owners, I tried. I remember saying, go bathroom, I'll go to the toilet. And I went to the toilet. I was thinking, after the toilet, I'm out of here. And as I opened the door, toilet, there the guy was. I couldn't get away from him. Long story short, they decided, okay, we're walking now. We're going to wherever our last destination are. The guy of the car, the owner of the car, took the car and said, now he's done. So he left us. Now we're on foot. So as we are walking, it must have been 7, 8 guys who was like, oh, and then so I was like, no, Luna Lewuma, And the guys were like, no, it's patrol on 10, as if they are like CPF. And then I remember just breathing and going, oh my God, I'm saved. This is a community policing forum. I thought I was saved. And then we started walking again. And then I remember just looking back at the other guys, trying to signal, I don't know these people. And then we were walking, the three of us. And before I knew it, we were all running. Like, these guys had machetes. They were running after us. And so these two are also running. And then they're not even holding me. I'm running and they are outrunning me. So I slow down. Because I'm like, these guys are the police, the community policing. So they're going to save me. I'm going to tell them my story. They take me, I tell them my story, Only for them to take me, Kozon 10, there's this place where there's almost like a river stream.
A ravine?
Yeah, And I remember just passing there, and as we passed there, they dribbled me to the floor and threw me to the ground. And then one of them took off their lumber jacket that they were wearing, and then they just put it over my face. And I just remember them going, all fighting, and all like taking turns. So that story is a very traumatic part of my life, but it's no longer something that brings tears to me at all because of what my mother did afterwards. It's a very long story, but I then realized when you talk about justice that a lot of young girls go through this. So you talk about the courts. We went to court. They found the abductors. So the abductors were caught, and I couldn't identify the actual perpetrators because I didn't know what they looked like. Because they had put, it was at night, and they had put that jacket over my face. So Haralego Court, the court process for rape is the most traumatic experience because you have to describe in detail. And the defending attorney can just ask you, what do you mean by rape? And you've got to describe, that somebody forcibly, opened, spread your legs open and inserted their penis into your vagina, and it was violent and it was not consented. And I remember in the corner of my eye, and the magistrate deciding whether I must baton tolokela. And I said, no, I can speak English, I'll speak for myself. And then at the corner of my eye, I saw my mother in the benches crying. And I had missed so much school, and the school didn't know why I was missing school. So I was missing school, and this thing was just taking forever. It was going over and over and over. And when I saw my mother that day, I saw her crying, and I said, this is it. And I said to my mother, I'm not going back there again. And that's where the case ended. So I don't know what happened to the guy. I probably have been on many taxis with them. I don't remember what they look like, and all of that. Maybe some of them are dead. I don't know. But if you ask about justice, justice can come in many ways. Maybe sometimes it doesn't come through the courts. Maybe they all went through hell, and maybe they all died horrible deaths in the end. Or maybe they've also experienced their own children go through what they did to me.
Look, it's very difficult to just walk past this section of the podcast because it wasn't planned. I'm speaking about justice deliberately because the CWECWE matter just shows us that what happened to you could be repeated, and we may not know who these people are. And I just want to understand, in your case, 93 is a very long time ago. I suppose there were no DNA extraction methods, there were no procedures and stuff. So even if the suspect would have been apprehended, there wouldn't have been anything that puts them on the scene in terms of biological evidence like DNA because it wasn't done properly.
Yeah. So I definitely did get swabbed. I didn't wash.
Yeah.
After I was found. Of course, we don't have enough time as to how I survived.
Yeah.
But everything was done. I remember when I finally got home, the following day, I'd been helped by a neighbor. It's a very long story for another day. But when I got home, I just remember seeing cars, police cars, at my grandmother's house. Everybody was looking for me. And when I got there, my mother looked into my eyes, but because she was a disciplinarian, they started thinking, but she looked into my eyes and she didn't ask me a question. She took me away from everyone. And when she realized what had happened to me, we went in the car, we were with the police, and everything was done. So I had not washed, I had not taken off evidence and all of that. But like I say, the people who got me into this situation were not the ones who raped me. So my case was very tricky because I got abducted from my abductors. So now it was a case of, what are we charging these guys for? They kidnapped this girl, but they didn't rape her. It was other people who are faceless, unknown, etc., etc. So when I watch what is happening to Amahle, to CWECWE, to many faceless girls, it's happening to many, 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 many faceless girls. We just happen to have poster children. So, for example, you talk about 1993, that was me. There was no justice for Lerato. There was no campaign for justice for Lerato. But I think all of us who can piece our brains together, our little brain cells together in this country, we know that this is happening to many, many, many young girls. Not reported, not known, no campaign, nothing. Parents feeling, mothers feeling hamstrung, not knowing who to talk to, not knowing where to go, not knowing what to do, how to save and protect their children. I recently was doing oversight in schools in the Northern Cape. A traumatic story that literally still leaves me gut-wrenched is the rape of young girls by so-called educators or education officials, principals, doing this to literally grooming young girls. And there are these sex rings and syndicates and pornography syndicates. And I loved one of the interviews done by one of the activists on Newsroom Africa said, you can't call it child pornography because pornography implies consent. So you can't say child pornography because there is no child consent. And so there is a parent I met there. There is a group in the Northern Cape called Women Waging War. I love that group of women. They are waging war on gender-based violence. They are waging war on poverty, landlessness, injustice. They're doing a lot of work, and they are working with this one case. And the mother, I met the mother of the young girl. In my case, I was able to heal and become a normal person, have a family, get married, have a child. This particular young girl got hurt. So her insides, she was too young, and she's got some kind of health condition that her mother doesn't know. She can't be helped as to what is this condition, and she has stopped going to school. The mother's marriage has broken down, so their family is broken down because she's focused on her daughter, and her whole life has fallen apart. The life hope has been wrenched from her. But maternal spirit is something else. She continues to fight, even when she knows she has no hope anymore. When she speaks to you, you can feel that she's only going to fight so that even the day that the Lord remembers her, she will die on her feet and not on her knees for her child. And so that's just one example. And I'm saying she's faceless. You don't know her name. I will not mention her name, but she's Lerato. And so there is a lot that we have to do in our country. It's got everything to do with the law, but it also has to do with moral regeneration. I know that we use that word a lot, but this idea that your next door neighbor's child is your child, we don't have that anymore. We have the fact that nobody even looked around. The owner of the establishment where I was kept for hours on a day did not say, if you guys want to go around with young girls, please don't do it in my establishment. It's not like I was there and nobody saw me. And so you can imagine in how many communities, how many informal squatter camps we have in this country, where people are living and they are just the forgotten. It's a very painful part of contemporary reality in our country that we really have to resolve. And it's going to take all of us, each and every one of us, anyone who has children, it's going to take all of us. And my mission has always also been, because I have a boy child, and I've always prayed that I raise somebody who can positively contribute to society. May I not raise somebody who life is going to overtake so much because there's so much that's gone wrong in our society. It's not the fault of some children. Some children get accosted by vile people who get them hooked on drugs, who get them doing things that you as a parent, would not dream for your child. When I see, these kids modi robotong, I always remember the day that I gave birth to my child and how happy and glorious it all felt. And I think that child's mother felt exactly the same way the day that they were born. And this is not what they dreamt for them. And so there's a lot. So when you talk about justice, justice is a very big topic. But it's not just a legal domain.
So, in closing this segment, you and I are adults in South Africa. If I'm convinced, you said they did the procedure, they took swabs and they did everything. I'm convinced that if they wanted to arrest those people, they would have. There was no intention, there was no zeal, there was no... I'm convinced they could have arrested those people. They were leads. The first abductors were there. The people who patrol our streets, we know them. If they are not the ones who are at risk, then we link them with whatever sample they got. The scene could have been cleaned better, but I just believe they could have been arrested. Let me leave it at that because it's a very painful thing. In South Africa, I'm a man who takes the flag for the bad thing that men are doing. And when there are opportunities like that to put on a mask, these perpetrators, these monsters who damage our own names, if there's an opportunity, by all means, that opportunity must be grabbed. So it cleans out our name, Wabon. And it hurts me that that thing wasn't followed up because according to me, it wasn't a difficult case. I'm being honest with you. It wasn't a difficult case.
Can I tell you something ironic without cutting you off? The one of the rapists who ultimately saved me said he did it because his father is a policeman.
There you go. There you go. It's not difficult. You already gave us why it wasn't going to go into a lead. But let's just leave it. It's unfortunate that we are laughing on a matter that we shouldn't be laughing at. Yeah, no, let's leave it there. Your politics. I'm not going to ask you why you studied political science.
Yeah.
You've already painted your politics. What I want to check now is a lot of people don't actually understand how much South Africans fought for this South Africa